Welcome, stranger. Customer sent me an Minolta XGM. It's an electronic camera, and for refurbishment and refurbishment. Sorry. And anyway, I tore it down, cleaned it, oiled it. I'd made adjustments, foam, usual. And I was going to put it back together, and I thought, well, maybe it'd be fun to do a video on it. A short video, hopefully. And even though I imagine that most of my viewers are interested in the older mechanical cameras, but anyway, let's take a tour through it and see what we can discover. Let's get started. Where do we start? Start with the top cover, which is where I usually start. So here it is, Minolta XGM. When the first few of these cameras hit my desk, I was very disappointed. I had been working on the Minolta SRT models for years, and I'd also worked on the, the XE and the XD models. Yeah, okay. And they were all metal, high precision cameras, competitive with Canons and Nikons. And then all of a sudden they turn this thing out and it's all plastic. The top cover is plastic, the base plate's plastic, the body's plastic, even some of the gears are plastic. And I didn't read up on it, but I guess the Minolta company decided to market their cameras to not photographers that were interested in taking fine photographs, but to consumers. So this is a consumer model camera. I was very disappointed when I got the first few of them on my desk. I remember at that time I didn't even want to work on them, and a lot of them came in. It was an all-electronic camera. It was Minolta's first. I'm trying to see if there's anything in here to talk about, but there isn't really. So, this is the Minolta XGM top cover. One thing here I can discuss for anybody working on one. Quite often on these cameras, the on-off switch is stiff. Over the years, the lubricant in this switch here gets dried out, and also dirt gets underneath it from the environment. The thing is that you can't take it apart to clean it. It is crimped in, which I don't know if you can see that or not, there in the edges. And so when it's stiff like that, what you have to do, this little ball bearing here locks it in place, either an on or off. So you get this little screw, take it out, remove this clip, remove that ball bearing, and then you get naphtha, and you squirt it down in there, and then you keep working it back and forth until it's really free. If not, then you keep putting more naphtha in there. Of course, you get an air gun and blow the naphtha out. And as the naphtha comes out of this switch here, it carries the gunk that's causing the problem with it. And it's, repeat until it's free. And once the switch is free, then you put a little grease on this ball bearing, put it back in, put the clip on and the screw. And then you fix this switch problem from being so stiff. Because it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be freely and lock at both ends. That little ball bearing locks it in place. And I guess that's about it about the top cover. And maybe enough about the history of this camera. When Minolta started making these, I'm assuming that they decided to change their target audience. Instead of photographers, they targeted consumers. In other words, just anybody. that wanted to take pictures could grab one of these. They were cheaper to buy because they were cheaply made. And I'm assuming that's kind of what happened. I don't know, of course. But Minolta had some beautiful cameras, the XC and XD, highly precision, all metal, able to compete with Nikons and Canons in quality. And then they switched to this consumer model, and it was really a shock to me that they did that. All right, let's move on. Okay, what do we want to look at next? Next, I think we'll look at the bottom cover. Bottom cover on this camera is made exactly like the top cover. It's plastic with probably copper pressed over it and then painted. Normally I can tell if cameras had a lot of use by the scratches on the bottom, but Minolta put a piece of plastic over all the bottom covers, but you can still see scratches in the plastic, and you can see it coming up at the corners. So the camera has seen use here and here, even though there's no visible scratches here on the bottom. You got to wonder why they put that piece of plastic on there. Probably to protect the bottom cover from wearing through the paint and that copper laminate that they put on it. I wished I could show you what I'm talking about, but a customer unit, and I can't cut it, but out in storage I've got a lot of top covers and bottom covers with wear, and you can see the copper underneath when the paint wears off. Okay, let's move that out of the way. Get started on the back cover here. The back cover is metal. Thank goodness. At least they made something out of metal. I guess it structurally had to be metal. And as far as film going through the camera, I always like to check the pressure plate. If a lot of film has gone through the camera, there'll be scratches on the film pressure plate as a lot of film had gone through it. I don't see any scratches on this pressure plate, so I don't know if a lot of film has gone through it or not. But I can see scratches here and here where the film canister, when they put it in, the lip normally would be down, but sometimes customers put the film canister in at about a 45-degree angle. They just don't push it down, and the back has to force that lip down, and when it does, it causes these scraping marks here on the film door. This happens to nearly all the cameras. So the lesson here is you need to advance your film and get it tight and make sure the lip on your canister is down. What would that be? Horizontal in relation to the camera body. You don't want it sticking up and to have to force it down. It can actually sometimes pinch your film and you can't advance it. But you can see here the metal clips underneath, metal back, metal pressure plate. Here on the front, you can see where I replaced the foam here and here in the channel on both sides. One nice thing that a lot of cameras didn't have is this film door can be removed with this clip right here. You just, let's see, yeah, there we go. If you look right here, you can push that up. It goes up. And you'd say, well, why do you want to remove the door? Well, you might want to buy a second door that had like what it usually had I guess you'd say a counter on it or a date mark. You could usually program it to do one or the other, not both. So your cameras, you could they'd be marked right at the edge on which frame it was, or for a photographer, or what date it was taken. Data banks, is that what they were called? I don't know. It's been a long time. And I don't fact check these things like I should. Got these little marks right here, these studs. The studs underneath, if I remember correctly, are copper or brass, and they tend to corrode. And as they corrode, they cause these little dimples. I usually just leave them alone because there's no really way to fix them besides taking the leather off. And that's too much trouble to have to take off all the leather on the back just to scrape the tops of these studs. Those little, I guess they would call them rivets that are put through. Let's see here. If I can get another camera and see one. I don't plan these videos out. There we go. See that little stud there? And right there, it's riveted through the back. Those are either copper or brass. And the backs of them here, like I said, for some reason they reacted with the leather and they corrode and they have a residue under there. Have to go in and scrape it off and then re-glue the leather back on, which normally I don't do. Okay, that's the end of that. Okay, what's next? Next. I guess next is the body. The body of the Minolta XGM and all the electronic cameras made at that time by Minolta has switched to plastic. I had never seen a plastic body before. All the cameras I'd worked on had bodies usually made of aluminum. And when I saw this, I was shocked, to say the least. And it was a shame that Minolta started making consumer cameras for the general public and not photographers anymore. They put a plate in here instead of they couldn't, the body was plastic and they needed steel, so they just bolted a plate in here. And it looks like they put some brass or steel gears in it. This part right here was hooked up to the advance lever, and I replaced a lot of these. They were bending. It should have been carbon steel, but they just used a high strength steel in it. And they would bend. Wouldn't break, but they would bend, and I'd have to replace them. Over here, on the when the customer wanted to open the back and pull up the open the back of the camera, then pull up on the film knob here, it would break this bracket here, because this bracket also was plastic, and it would crack right along the top here, and I'd have to replace it. It's only the front is gone. I cut it away because it had to function, but the back here is all that was keeping the top from the bottom. And so when they pulled up, this would just break off. Very disappointed in Minolta when they made this. I remember working on them. Of course, they made me a lot of money. A lot of them came in for service. But being a photographer myself and interested in cameras and photography. These gears down here at the base were also plastic. They couldn't even bring themselves to put metal gears down here. I don't know what the difference is between plastic and nylon, but these gears, as far as I can just looking at them and working with them, are nylon. But the teeth would break off if the customer, I don't know how the customer did it, but they forced it, and they'd break these teeth off. And so I'd have to replace these plastic gears down here also. Terrible that Minolta fell to making these consumer models. I don't know if they made much money off them or not. I mean, the people that bought them, I'm sure didn't expect them to break or wear out. I don't remember what they cost, but they must have cost a fraction of the older cameras. Like the SRT was all metal, and it was tough. And then they made the XE and the XD, and they were all metal, and they were precision cameras. I remember on those cameras when you advanced them, they were just buttery smooth, and they had a nice feel to them. And then imagine my shock when Minolta started marketing these, because it was a shock. Anyway, that's enough about that. We'll put that aside and move on. Okay, what do we work on next? Next, we'll be working on the mirror cage. The mirror cage on the XGM is the camera, not the top cover or bottom cover or the body. As you can see, the body is an empty husk. There's nothing really here. You've got your advanced gears here and down here, but the rest of it is just an empty hull made to carry the film cartridge. It's not the camera. The camera on this particular consumer model is all bolted to the mirror cage. I'm going to move this camera back just a little bit so we can have some more room here to see. And I guess that was done to save money when they produced it. But very strange. When I first saw it, I was like amazed. I was like, oh, okay. I was used to working on cameras for photographers, some even professional. And to see a consumer model, I mean, we took in all cameras at our shop, and so we had to take these in too. But to see that Minolta had started producing these was a shock to me. This tab right up here engaged the lens, just like on the SRTs. And I don't have this played off right now, but this is not a tutorial, it's just a tour. Underneath here was a set of contacts and a resistor strip. And so if any of you are working on one of these, this right here engages the camera and moves those contacts up and down that strip. And sometimes when the camera's acting weird, I go for the easiest things first. And the first thing I do is remove this plate and clean the contacts and clean the resistor strip and put it back together. And sometimes it will take care of the problem. Usually when this is dirty, the exposure meter window is erratic, but usually I'm not that lucky. But it's so easy to clean that I clean it first just in case. The screen is gone. I quite often remove the screen when working on cameras just to protect it. And of course you've got your mirror stop down lever here. You can see it moving there. If you want to stop down your lens and check your depth of field, a button here to release the lens. I've had them bend before. They're underneath here. They're metal, but they're not a good, they're a soft metal, I guess what I'm trying to say. And sometimes I had to replace those. Self-timer switch there. This is not in any particular order. This is a tour, not a tutorial. Up here you had your speed control. Usually it was just left an A for automatic, and or aperture, I forget which. And this is plastic, this is plastic. Contacts here for turning a switch on and off. A lot of the switches and controls are in my tray where I repair things. Let's see, get over here. Gather things as I'm repairing, so you won't see them. But that's where they're at. They all had to be removed. The XGM and the X700 and the XG1 were all electronic cameras, fully electronic, new. And when I heard about them, I was excited until I actually had to work on them, and I was disappointed. This right here is a plate. It's opaque glass. They flush mount components on it. Like on this one, I see diodes. Here's a control pot for making adjustments. Here's one here. Switching to the other side. Here's a control pot here, and here, and here. I think it was this one, the main two, but I'm not positive. Might be this one here. One of those three there. I have notes that I keep on my computer, and I also have a manual made by Minolta, so I can adjust them, but one is for speeds and one is for exposure. You just have the one adjustment. It's pretty simple, really. You just stick a screwdriver in there and turn it until you get your exposure right or your speeds right. Of course, you have to have a tester. Here's an IC. Here's an IC. Having ICs in cameras was new back then. And like on the Canon AE1, it was wonderful, but the Canon AE1, I wouldn't consider it a consumer model, although possibly some people would. It wasn't made this cheaply. Let's put it that way. Here is a set of contacts and resistors for the ASA. Contact rides across as you change your ASA and tells the camera what ASA film you're using. When you set it, here's a can. This camera had a ton of wires, which I hated. It was a mess to work with. This can here keeps going out. On a lot of the forums, the people there will say replace it, and it works a lot of times, but a lot of times it doesn't. It's hit or miss. Say about 50% of the time replacing it will fix the camera, but the other 50% it will not fix it. But on later electronic cameras, they just got rid of all the wires because the wires they're a lot of work, as you can see. It's like spaghetti. Soldering them, unsoldering them as you need to work on the camera and do things. And they put in the flex circuit, but then they didn't finish it up, and so they still had to put in wires to take care of problems. If they had designed it better, there wouldn't have been any wires, or very, very few. Up here, the arrangement was standard. As you can see here, a hole here and a hole here for these diodes, which I'll show you shortly. There they are. Kind of strange looking. I was used to the round aluminum can type diodes, but these are, I don't know what these are. I say diodes, photocells, excuse me. Photocells, which measured the light. I guess since this was a consumer model, it didn't really make much difference. So they used those. They're still working. I'll say that for them. And the viewfinder. A couple more cans. Down here we have gears for the shutters. Plastic, 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 plastic. Sure did hate that. Magnet here. I don't know if it's a kick magnet or a release magnet, but controls your, what am I trying to say here? It controls your, not f-stops, exposure. Times like 2/50th of a second, 30th of a second, 1,000th of a second. Counting how your camera set, or if it's an automatic, the camera chooses. But it makes the exposure and then closes. But a lot of traffic outside today. I don't know if this will record or not. If you look here, you'll see the opening and closing curtain go across. You charge it with this gear here. There it is. You see it? Okay, lock them both like so. And then when you're repairing and you don't have the electronic release, you press this right here. There goes your, oops, that shouldn't have done that. I messed up. Let's start over again. Guess I didn't lock it in place. Okay, let's try that. Try it again. Should be totally open. There we go. Okay, opening curtain opens. Takes your picture, exposure on the camera, says okay, now it's time to close it. And up here you've got your magnet, and that's either a lock or a kick. Releases your closing curtain and your exposure's taken. Like I said, it could be anywhere from 1,000th of a second down to 1 second, counting on the exposure the camera needed. See if we can do that again. Charge it. If the customer really forced it, they could break these gears. I've had to replace shutters before because they did. Putting plastic gears is a terrible idea, but I suppose it saves money if you're making them and trying to sell them as cheap as possible. And again here, I'm going to see if I can trip that by looking on screen. There we go. Opening curtain, your exposure starts. The ICs on the circuit up there do their magic, and it determines the speed. And then, like I said, this is either a holding magnet or a kick magnet, and closes it, and you got your exposure. The two shutters, curtains, wrap here, two rollers. Rollers are plastic. Also, too much plastic in this camera. The timing of the shutters is controlled here. These little, I wouldn't call them gears, but these ratchets, as you can see, there's a clip there, holds them in place. You have to have a tester that can test curtain times, and you have to set those curtains so that they match in milliseconds. Normally, on a camera like this, it would be about 12 milliseconds, and you'd need to get those matched. So if you're shooting a fast speed like 1,000th of a second, the slit that the exposure makes is consistent and doesn't widen or narrow as it's going across, which I can't really explain here on this video, but works kind of like a copying machine, where it, as the two curtains go across, they expose the film, and so those curtains have to be the same speed. Quite often people buy testers, but the testers only tell you the speeds, like a 30th of a second, 60th of a second, 250th of a second. But only the better testers tell you your curtain times, and the cheaper ones don't. But these curtain times have to be set for the camera to work properly. This down here, if I remember correctly, is kind of like a little flywheel, a governor that controls your mirror as it's going up. If it goes up too fast, it'll bounce and bounce down and get in the way of your picture, your lens. So it has to be controlled going up so it doesn't go up too fast and bounce. And I think that's about it. Like I said, I was not going to explain everything on this mirror cage, just kind of give you a tour. So if you ever take one apart, you kind of can feel your way around and understand what's going on. Normally I don't troubleshoot the shutter. There's 4 screws that hold it in place, 2 on this side and 2 on this side. And I just undo them. And where are they? I think they're on this side here. There's one right there, I think, screw. And then there'll be one at the top. Yeah, there we go. There's another one right there. And let's see if we can find the last one. That may be it right there. And you have to undo all those, and when you do, this whole shutter block will come off. And I just normally grab another one, it's good, and bolt it on. I don't try to troubleshoot the shutters. Of course, Minolta made it that way. When they assembled it, it made things a lot easier for them. It won't fix all problems, but if you've actually got like broken gears here on the shutter, or if this is these shutter these ribbons are torn or broken, it's easier just to go ahead and replace the whole shutter block than it is to try to troubleshoot it. Okay, I think that's about it. That's kind of the tour of the mirror cage on the XGM. And hope you found it entertaining, maybe a little educational. Okay, that is it. This was supposed to be a short video. I won't know how short it is until I can get it into my editor. I did motor mouth a lot about the camera, but I've got years of information stuck inside my head, and it kind of all flows out when I'm talking about these cameras. I was very disappointed when I worked my first, probably started out the XG1s, and then the X700s, and then this is an XGM, which was later, 81 I think. At all the plastic that was on the camera. It was a consumer model. They switched gears. The Minoltas went from making cameras for semi-professional photographers to just making cameras for the general public. And so to cut the price, they made everything plastic. And what else? If you want to work on one just for the fun of it, and you happen to have one, the XGM that I just showed you in the video is almost identical to the X700 and XG1. The electronics are a little bit different, but the mechanical part is pretty much the same. And I don't think you'll have any problem. They are an electronic camera, and unless you know something about electronics, you probably can't fix one. Although the camera that you're working on could have a mechanical problem, which I touched on a few of the points of those, and maybe you could get it going. I guess I need to shut up and let you go. Thanks for dropping by. Later.